Joining me at the Daily Detroit table at the Downtown Detroit Partnership Forum is the Director of Commercial Development for Michigan Central, Beth Kmetz. Welcome to the show. There's a lot of news today.
Yes, we're so happy to have you here and excited to talk about it.
Yeah, so basically what I understand is that we're at some phases of truly getting moving with a new multi-modal transportation hub, rail, intercity buses. Let's talk about it.
Great, and you heard it directly from the governor herself.
Yes. So why don't we outline the thumbnail of this project real quick for people?
That sounds great. So what we're looking at here is reestablishing international passenger rail here in the Corktown and Southwest neighborhoods. We're talking to MDOT and the City of Detroit, as well as our friends in Canada at the City of Ontario and through VIA, to establish a multimodal transit center here on our land to the west of Michigan Central Station, on our land west of Werner. This multimodal station would include both intercity buses as well as international passenger rail.
And I think this is a big deal because, our studio is up by the Amtrak station that's in New Center by Woodward. It's colloquially known as the Greyhound, but I think it's owned by MDOT. The bus terminal is over on Howard Street, over by the Lodge. Both are showing their age, to say the least.
Yes. This, a major part of the funding that has been earmarked for this project comes from a RAISE grant that MDOT had received at one point to explore combining those two resources. And people who have been around Detroit for a while might know that there was discussion about combining those at the new center location. That conversation took another direction because that site's very small and somewhat congested. We here have over 8 acres that is rail adjacent and immediately adjacent to other infrastructure. And we've been studying this space for years now and understand that this space could easily hold those two resources.
Well, and there's so much happening right around there, whether it's the new Detroit City FC Stadium, all the different investments. So this means it's $40 million in total, right? That's kind of earmarked for this?
Yes, there are $40 million of known funds that are set aside for this project at this time.
And so this is the preliminary stage. There's a memorandum of understanding, or MOU is the fancy word, say.
Yes.
So for people at home, what does that mean?
Great. What that means is that the parties who signed the MOU include the State of Michigan's MDOT department that we all know and love, the City of Detroit, and also the Detroit Transit Corporation, which other people may know more colloquially as the People Mover entity, and Michigan Central Fordland are the groups that have signed the MOU. And what this does is it commits funding for the initial stages of due diligence on the land. So we've done preliminary feasibility studies on the land already, but now we're moving into the phase where we prepare documents that go to the federal government for approval through their processes, and it also brings funding for designing the station up to 30%. So we understand that the station is truly possible at the site. Once we get past that point, then we would enter into the next phase, which is design and construction of the station.
So some listeners will ask, as we are literally recording this in Michigan Central, why not do this at the train station itself? What are the reasons behind that?
Yeah, that's a really popular question, and I understand where that comes from. There are a couple of reasons. Number one, the train, what people know as the station, is turning into more of a cultural hub. And that includes the current office tenants that we have. Ford Motor Company has a few floors, and we're currently building out an after-school club for the Boys and Girls Club of Southeastern Michigan, and we have retail tenants. We're also in the middle of starting construction on our future hotel on the top floors, and we've also become a major events destination. And so we think that the actual nuts and bolts of a transit center might make sense just immediately adjacent to us next door. There's also a technical detail that doesn't allow both of those things to exist under the same zoning code. And we did downzone the train station from heavy industrial, M4, to major business, B5, to allow for all of the uses I just described earlier, and those are incompatible with transit centers. And so that's another reason why our land to the west of Werner is still zoned appropriately for the transit center use.
What kind of connections to the rest of the city do you kind of envision maybe, street grid. I think about the old maps of Corktown and things like that. I know a lot of people who are into history and into the history of the city, kind of miss the old street grid in some ways.
Oh, that's such a good question, and one that's close to my heart. I'm one of those people. So if you look to the west of us, from Verner to 20th, and on the other side of 20th is where the Detroit City Football Club is preparing their stadium. Between Verner and 20th, there used to be a street grid on 19th, 18th, 17th. And right now, there are really two large owners. There's Ford Motor Company in Michigan Central. There's about 8 acres there. And then there's 8 acres plus owned by the city of Detroit, where their public works site is. We're in active communication right now with the city as they are planning their decommissioning of that public works site to talk about how the street grid might get reintroduced across these sites to help people connect Michigan back to the future multimodal transit center.
So this doesn't mean, there's not a timeline for construction on any of this stuff yet, right? But this is a big step forward.
I would say we're a little further down the road than that. Right now, we're anticipating, if all goes well, the multimodal center could be up and running by late 28.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's right up ahead. And I did notice that Amtrak talked a bit about extending Wolverine service to Windsor and then through there to Toronto. How does that all fit together with this?
Well, that is directly connected to this. So the tracks that are right behind us, that we're just feet away from us right now, do connect under the river in an underground tunnel over to the city of Windsor and then on to Toronto. So the railroad tracks between Toronto and Chicago currently exist and are primarily a freight line. There is a relationship between CSX and Amtrak to allow Amtrak trains to ride on those freight lines. So this isn't about creating new rail lines. This is about using existing infrastructure in a way that allows for international passenger rail. It's really about creating an appropriate multimodal center that allows for people to access these infrastructural assets.
So how does this tie together with the projects happening at Michigan Central? There's the hotel, there's mobility. I mean, of course, on the fun side, I'm like, I could take a train and go stay at the hotel that's going to be here at Michigan Central. And that was a fun thing to do when I was actually in Memphis one time. They got a much smaller situation, but very pretty nonetheless. I think about that, but there's so much stuff. How does this all work together for the goals of Michigan Central?
I think that sounds like a really great trip. I'd like to go do that in Memphis myself. It sounds like just the kind of thing I'd like to do. So we do think that this multimodal center reinforces Michigan Central as a tourist destination, and we would love for people to take the train from the great cities of Chicago and beyond, and Toronto and beyond, and come here and stay at the Nomad Detroit Hotel that will be opening in Q1 of 2027. So just a little bit more than a year away will be the opening of that hotel. And, we expect people to maybe travel as well to come and see soccer matches at the Detroit City Football Club. They're our friend and neighbor, and we think that this development only reinforces their success as well.
What did it take from a coordination point of view to make things happen? Because, there's been so much in the public conversation, so much discord lately. And to see a development like this, including, assets in Canada as well, like coordination of that, to see this kind of working together, I think is a good thing to see. But how long has it been at work, and really what did it take to make it happen?
We've been working on this project for years and years. And, in the last, year, we didn't miss a beat in terms of our coordination with our Canadian partners through this. Both sides are committed to seeing this through. We know it's the right thing for ridership and for these regions. And so there has been an unwavering commitment on both sides to see this project through. We know that we are stronger when we are connected, and we all wish to see this come to fruition.
And will there be opportunity for the community to be heard about the design plans or things like that?
Absolutely. That is part of the process we're entering into now. So part of any project that involves federal funds requires a process that is governed by the Environmental Protection Agency, which includes community outreach. And so the funds from this MOU that are dedicated to the project will directly relate to our community outreach. So please follow us on all of our socials and stay connected to our project. You'll have the opportunity to comment.
Absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to keeping up on the developments and seeing this start to roll out. So the Director of Commercial Development, Beth Kmetz, thank you so much for your time on Daily Detroit. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun being here.